The powerful system is the perfect vehicle to reinvigorate his stealth action franchise. The Sony PlayStation was already a hit in Japan, but it became a true global phenomenon when it made its debut at the very first E3 trade show in Los Angeles in 1995. It was clear to Hideo Kojima and his team that the impressive hardware of the new console would be powerful enough to realize Metal Gear in a whole new way. Kojima and his team began researching, scouting locations, and even military training in order to make the game feel as realistic as possible. Motion capture techniques were used, dialogue was recorded, and a musical score was composed. The team spared no expense and endeavored to make the new Metal Gear game the most elaborate video game ever created.
メタルギアソリッドの時に、プレイステーションというすごくメジャーなプラットフォームに、関わることができたので、これはチャンスということで、もうがむしゃらに、今までやってきたことと、今まで開発して研究してきたこととか全てをつぎ込んで作ったのがメタルギアソリッドです。
After years in development, Metal Gear Solid was released in 1998 to rave reviews and eventually went on to sell over 6 million copies and earn countless Game of the Year awards. The game was primarily story-driven and stayed true to its clandestine predecessors. The advancements of the PlayStation enabled the player to perform more stealthy maneuvers than ever before. This new 3D technology, apart from making the game look more realistic, opened up a whole new world of storytelling for Kojima.
2D はですね、例えばアングルを変えるとかするのに全部書き直しになるんですけど、3D の場合は 3D のモデルを作ってそこに空間を作ってしまえば、カメラはどうでもなるので非常に作りやすかったです。例えば、狙撃銃を出した時に 50m 離れたところに人を置いてですね、実際に、狙撃銃で覗いたら、そこに物が存在するのでズームすると本当にその、狙撃銃の感じっていうのがすごく簡単に出たので、映画ってカメラを変える醍醐味があるんですけども、ゲームはそれをプレイヤーがリアルタイムに変えることができるから、それによって可変動が何度も生きてくるというか、そういう効果が 3D になって顕著に出ました。
Although released in 1998, Metal Gear Solid is set in the year 2005 and picks up 6 years after the events in Metal Gear 2. It follows the exploits of Solid Snake as he infiltrates a nuclear weapons disposal facility in Alaska called Shadow Moses.
その当時っていうのはなかなかその 3D のポリゴンのゲームっていうのがまだ出だしの頃であまりなかったんですが、レースゲームだったり飛行機のシミュレーションのゲームだったらポリゴンっていうのは割とメジャーで使われてて、でアクションゲームって言われるジャンルでポリゴンのキャラクターが動いてっていうのはなかなかなかったので、僕たちも 3D ポリゴンっていうのに、初めて挑戦するジャンルだったんですが、すごく難しかったのを覚えてますね。
During Solid Snake's mission, he encounters some of the most important and memorable characters in the Metal Gear story. These included the fiery Meryl Silverberg, the resourceful Otacon, and Gray Fox's incarnation as the Cyborg Ninja.
1の時だと僕はサイボーグ忍者っていうキャラクターがすごい好きで、シナリオというか脚本の中には最初はいないキャラクターだったんですけど、どうしてもこういうキャラが出したいっていうので監督と想像していたキャラクターです。
We're also introduced to Shala Shaska, otherwise known as Revolver Ocelot, and Solid Snake's genetically crafted twin brother, Liquid Snake, whose fates would soon be forever intertwined. Keeping with the tradition of terrific boss fights that were introduced in the 8-bit Metal Gear games, Metal Gear Solid delivers vicious combat scenes that pit Solid Snake against unforgettable villains like Vulcan Raven, Sniper Wolf, and Psycho Mantis.
When you actually fight him, it pretends like it's changing the mode on your TV, like he's changing the video 1 to video 2. And it just made you think about yourself playing the game like outside of the game.
Wait a minute, then I realized that's not the brand of television I have. It's like, what's going on here?
By the time that Liquid Snake had been defeated and the credits rolled on Metal Gear Solid, it was clear that Hideo Kojima and his team had crafted a true masterpiece in just the early days of 3D action gaming. And now the world was hungry for more of Solid Snake's adventures, just as speculation grew on a new PlayStation game created. The gaming world wondered what kinds of surprises Kojima's team had planned. In the late 90s, Metal Gear Solid was an enormous success on the PlayStation. The game had proven that Kojima's team was more than up to the task of moving their tactical espionage action series into three-dimensional gameplay. But by the year 2000, a new PlayStation console was almost upon us. The PlayStation 2 launched in Japan on March 4th, 2000, while the North American launch of the console followed in November of the same year. The console had a monstrously successful launch amid complaints of a dearth of compelling games to play. The cries of not enough good games died a year later, however, as Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty was released in North America and Japan in November of 2001, and in Europe a few months later.
僕が一番好きなのはメタルギアソリッド2、プレイステーション2のゲームですね。なぜかというと、そのタンカーの上で巨大なロボットメタルギアが出てきて、それとスネークが戦うというシーンがあるんですけど、あれはワンダという曲のインスパイアの元にもなってたりするので、そういう意味では思い入れがあるゲームです。
The game was definitely the next evolution of 3D tactical espionage action, but Kojima had a shock for anyone expecting to spend a lot more time with Solid Snake. In a controversial second-act twist, the game switched out protagonists and put players in control of newcomer Raiden. The change of heroes was deliberate and focused purely on growing the fan base for the series.
最初はそれで作ったんですけども、メタルギアソリッドでスネークが人気が出てしまって、ある種偶像になってしまった。キャラクター性がついてしまったので、そのキャラクターを、いろんな人が操作するのが非常に難しくなったということで、2ではライデンを主人公にしてスネークを客観的に見れるような、キャラクターの関係を作った。
But to the team's surprise, the reactions to Raiden as the new main character were not universally positive.
出したことによって失敗したことは
Players who desperately missed playing a Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty went on to become the biggest selling game in the entire franchise. Metal Gear Solid 2 was filled with some of the most spectacular visuals and cinematic scenes that video game players had ever seen. Stunning water effects, complex physics, deep layers of environmental interactivity, and truly mesmerizing cutscenes were some of the calling cards for the game. The complicated story starts with a prologue that takes place 2 years after the events of Metal Gear Solid. The action begins with a dramatic leap off the George Washington Bridge as Solid Snake infiltrates a tanker ship to investigate the creation of a new powerful Metal Gear. During his infiltration, Snake combats invading soldiers who have come to steal the new Metal Gear called Ray. Snake also comes face to face with his old nemesis, Revolver Ocelot, who has had his severed arm replaced by the nanite-infested arm of Liquid Snake. In a very tense face-off, Ocelot murders the commanding officers on the ship and sets off explosives to sink it before escaping in Metal Gear Ray. And Solid Snake is apparently lost in the wreckage. Metal Gear Solid 2 picks up 2 years later and introduces Raiden as the playable character. Raiden infiltrates Big Shell, an offshore cleanup facility that has been overrun by terrorists, and attempts to rescue the hostages locked up in the installation. During his mission, Raiden battles extraordinary foes like Fat Man, a bomb-throwing sadist with a predilection for inline skates. Fortune, a woman with the power to make every bullet miss her. And Vamp, a creepy, seemingly immortal killer with a taste for blood. It doesn't take long for Raiden to recognize that things are not like they seem. Big Shell turns out to be a development facility for a new Metal Gear called Arsenal that has been commandeered by Solidus Snake, another genetic clone and brother to Liquid and Solid Snake. In the latter stages of Metal Gear Solid 2, the story veers in an entirely new and thought-provoking direction, suggesting that Raiden is actually a character in a Metal Gear video game.
There's a point like where the game goes to a game over screen. And so you think like I messed up, I died, but I didn't die. But the gameplay's still going on in that little window. Kojima signifies that it's still a game, but you nevertheless get completely sucked in because of all these other things he's doing to make it feel immersive and believable.
Raiden must face up to the doubts that he has in the world around him before he can stop Solidus, and with Solid Snake's help, uncover the truth about the Patriots, the shadowy conspiratorial organization that has been the dominant force behind the events in the Metal Gear games. Needless to say, the complex narrative was a little overwhelming for some Metal Gear fans.
メタルギアソリッド1がですね、アクションゲームでありながらストーリーがあるっていう評価を得たんですよね。で、最初2の時は、